So, I have never identified myself as being a reader. Growing up, I didn't really have an affinity for books. Apart from being a very fidgety, wriggly worm of a child, there was one particular incident that made me a non reader. I had this experience when I was about 6 or 7. Maybe I'm being a bit dramatic. This is what happened. This story involves my cousin. If this particular cousin is watching, you know who you are. Anyways, I was sitting at the back of the car with my cousin on a car ride to somewhere I forgot when my cousin said, "Hey Ish, do you want to see a magic trick?" And being the kid I was quite intrigued and agreed to witnessing my magician of a cousin. What followed was something that I will never be able to erase and never unsee. He pulled out a Dr. Seuss book that he had brought with him in the car, then picked his nose and made me inspect the golden booger that he had mined. Then he exclaimed to me, "Now I will make it disappear." After which he began to roll the booger onto the book in circular motions with his palm until the booger had disintegrated. After this experience, I became extremely anal with the care of my books. I only liked books if I owned them. That way I knew I was the only one who had touched them. Libraries became a place that I would avoid because just thinking about what children did with their books scared me. I remember doing my home reading homework for school, and I would wear cleaning gloves as I read to my mom and dad just so I didn't have to touch the book. Anyway, as time passed, I slowly let go of my booger traumas. I never hated books. I did read, and I did have books that defined aspects of my childhood, but I didn't really like reading for school. And I think prescribed texts in school slowly killed any small passion for reading that I did have. I think there is something about someone telling you that you must do something that dampens the mood of the experience of doing it. Maybe it was the surfacing of teenage rebelling that just doesn't want to obey, but as I got into higher years, there were a handful of books that I read that I actually enjoyed, but predominantly I saw books as a lot of work and time that I'd rather be putting elsewhere. I think I was more in the mindset that I'd rather just live my life, live my own story, come across other stories organically, instead of getting wrapped up in pushing words into me, which I still think is a pretty fair way to live. Some people are just not bookish, not words people. It's just not their language or mode in which they experience the world. And that's really okay. I think it's horrible to look down at non-readers, and quite frankly, I thought I was one of those people. I think trying to make someone read when they don't want to read is one of the most torturous things you can do to a human being. But then 2021 came around, and I embarked on this journey of reading 21 books in 2021. I haven't read this many books since the Premier's Reading Challenge in primary school. If you grew up in Australia, you'd know what that means. But anyway, as you do at the beginning of each year, you assess yourself and try, if you're like me, to find ways to make the next year better than the last by being a better you. Emphasis on the word try. In doing this reflection at the beginning of last year, I was grappling with this insecurity of not being smart enough. I never thought I was dumb, but I don't think I ever saw myself as intelligent. I know that there are a lot of types of intelligences, and my strengths within my personality probably lie in other types than being that academic smart. I think I've always been okay with this. My grades were never terrible. Overall, I do well. I always cared to study, but I've never been exceptionally bright, and it never came easy to me. This type of intelligence best lends itself towards formal education, and being in formal education for most of my life now, I feel that the messaging they send uplifts this type of intelligence and perhaps doesn't highlight other gifts as much. Also culturally, education is very important to my family, and doing well in school is a way to show appreciation to your parents and elders who work hard to invest in you. And I think because of this, I got caught up in viewing being smart as only this type of intelligence and felt a bit of a hole in my self-worth, not being a person that has this natural tendency. This could be some contributing factors to my feelings around unspecialness and not being particularly smart, but perhaps more of a factor is me making the I'm not smart mindset in my own mind, telling myself I don't do well with a lot of information, I try hard but I'm not really naturally good at grasping content, I'm a bit slow when it comes to learning new things. I found myself in this really uncomfortable place where I knew that viewing myself as not smart was impacting my capacity to live in my purpose, and became a barrier that really limited me. I knew that I thought this way about myself, and I knew I wanted to change it. And that's about all I knew. I wanted to take ownership for the way I approached this aspect of myself, and I wanted to do something about these limiting beliefs. So I thought of all the smartest people I knew that embodied this academic smartness that I felt that I lacked, and I asked myself, what does this quintessential academic smart person do? The image I saw in my head when I asked this question was a person with glasses reading books. As seemingly superficial and basic that was, I didn't really have any other grand ideas, so I just went with that. Smart people wear glasses and read books, so I was going to do that too. And therefore, I could be that type of smart too. Fake it till you make it, I guess. Anyway, so the 21 books in 2021 New Year's resolution was born, and I gave it my best shot. Stick around to hear how my view of books changed from being a lot of words I didn't want to know about to so much more. Here are 5 things I learnt about what books are. Number 1, books give you access. This is quite a seemingly simple realization, but I think that it speaks to the power of books. You know, when people ask you that question, who would you want to have dinner with or a conversation with, dead or alive? Oftentimes we reflect on people that seem to have channeled some greatness within their lives and would love to pick their brains and have them have a seat at our table. Books are gateways into living that metaphorical dinner, and I think especially if that person is dead, there are ways we can learn from others' experiences and be taken on the journey of their story through books. Books can empower and take you into rooms of thought that demographically or economically you may not be able to have access to otherwise. Knowledge sharing within books is infinite. As I finish up this year reading my 21st book, which carried on to the next 3 days of 2022, so technically I didn't finish reading 21 books, but I did start reading my 21st book in 2021, so I guess I reached it. Anyway, I'm just going to give myself that. I found myself feeling like books gave me this sense of freedom. It wasn't work anymore. I thought that after completing my goal, I would want to take a hiatus from books, but I've actually experienced something quite the opposite. There are so many books I have yet to read, and the knowing that I will probably never read all of them is kind of scary and great at the same time. Now I want to always be reading a book. In a book I read, ironically, a dude said, "You will be the same person in 5 years as you are today, except for the people you meet and the books you've read." Although this quote may have its flaws, in the year of isolation and death to the social life, reading really helps me cope and dampened my craving for human connection. I'm also an introvert, so maybe that helped as well. This was because when I was reading, I just got lost in it. I feel like the books I read made up for all the people that I didn't meet this year, if that makes any sense. And as cheesy as it is, I'm happy that I invested in myself in this way and broadened my perspectives, as physically traveling and having experiences in reality was kind of limited. Yeah, so now I see books as giving you access, and I'm so grateful for that sense of freedom that I feel as I get in the process of letting words take over me. Number 2, books don't care about your opinion. Although it sounds kind of bad, I think this is a really good thing. In the digital world, algorithms feed you what you want to hear, what you want to see, and it literally creates an echo chamber of our own beliefs. I think if we're not careful, this can be such a dangerous place to be consumed by. Although the internet is a space that can offer so much good, I feel that consumerist culture is more heavily implanted in social media than in books, making us a little slave to its agenda to make you want to keep scrolling, keep watching, and keep consuming. Books have different agendas depending on their authors, and like people, some books will piss you off and some books will touch your soul, but either way, books don't try to make you read them. You choose them and then you buy them, and that's where the marketing and manipulation ends in terms of them trying to sell you something because it's already bought. Well, unless it's a series. And then the onus is on you to read them. Books can be entertaining, but they can be so much more. Books engage the mind like conversing does. Because you have to work just that little bit extra, it stimulates the mind rather than numbing it, as constant scrolling can sometimes do. I think in order to really have confidence in knowing something, that knowing needs to be challenged and tested in some way. And books can do that for you, if you are open to giving them the time to explain themselves. So yes, books don't care about your opinion, and in that way it counters the ego fuel that can sometimes be existent in the sea of social media. And because of this, books can break through some of your own thought patterns and hence help you grow. Number 3, books give you a fuller picture. As I've sort of hinted at previously, a result of me investing in my goal of reading this year was that my phone usage time went down. And I feel like having this space between my phone and I gave me more perspective around the types of things that I ingest. I guess it comes down to the concepts of immediate gratification versus delayed gratification. Common sense tells us the longer something demands our attention, the more in-depth and detail you can obviously understand of it. The level of depth and understanding one can get from reading someone's autobiography versus looking at their Instagram feed is very different. Not necessarily saying that one is better than the other, but I would suspect that reading a book about a person's life gives more of an in-depth picture of joys, successes, trials and tribulations, and meanings behind events and interests in their life than pictures and hashtags do. I guess I found more contentment in getting to the depth of authors and characters within books, rather than keeping up with what the rest of the world was doing at a surface level. In some ways, books give a chance for a deeper explanation or understanding of its particular subject matter. It takes you on a journey, gives you light and shade rather than just a highlight reel. Just like relationships, the longer you invest, the more of the person you will see. I'm grateful for this sense of relationship I have with books that has allowed me to unveil intricacies about the world that I didn't see before, hence creating a more full picture. Number 4, books allow you to create your own curriculum. I think what has been really cool about this experience for me is the realization that I can literally learn anything I want through my choice in books. The process of choosing a book is an act of curiosity. I think that the aspect of intrinsic motivation in learning is cultivated when you yourself make yourself read. I know I spent and sometimes still spend time with informal education thinking, why are we learning this? How is this applicable to the real world? I wish I could learn what I wanted to learn, something that would actually be useful to me. Choosing books to read is a way that has allowed me to actually stop living in that space of complaining and take my education into my own hands. It feels really empowering to navigate your own learning. Taking that control to tailor your education feels like making steps to making a better you. Number 5, books can speak life into you. Not an expert here in the science, but I do know developmentally in your 20s is a time that we are generally at our prime, and our capacity for mental and physical gains are at its peak. In this way, the mindsets and approaches to how you live within your 20s can create foundations for how you approach the rest of your life. So me being in this phase of my life, I want to be conscious of my own mindsets and what I value at this time, because I believe it's the best way to head in a direction that would be most fruitful in living a life of purpose. Essentially, we are the stories we tell ourselves, and having a consciousness around the types of stories we are telling ourselves shapes how we show up in the world. For me, books have been a great way to expose myself to different ideas, to what I want to believe, and what philosophies will allow me to reach my personal goals. It has been really great to experience aha moments within books, where you know what you have read will shape the way you approach your life, and in turn change you as a person. At the end of the day, I guess I'm just grateful that I'm actually open to allowing books to guide me, and sometimes I've found through authors' voices that I've been guided in a way that a parent would, or someone that deeply cares about you. I've found that books can have this beautiful way of articulating things that your soul has always known in a very profound way. So there are my 5 things that I've learned about books through 2021. I hope you have enjoyed some of my insights. I think I will end this little reflection by readdressing the main goal I had that fueled this challenge. Do I feel like I'm naturally an academically smart person now that I've read quite a few books? Well, unfortunately, no. I still don't think of myself as academically smart, and I think that secretly I knew that wouldn't change. What I did get out of this was a really deep passion for reading, and I'm very happy about that. For me, this is more valuable because I think when you are passionate about something, you don't really have time to be insecure. And in that sense, I am thankful for the journey that my New Year's resolution has taken me. I wonder what's around the bend for this year. So that concludes my long-ass reflection. Thank you for making it to the end and listening to me go on and on. I'm planning on actually doing a book review next week of all the books that I've read, so if you're interested in that, that will be up soon. But yeah, hopefully you've had a good start to 2022 despite if you're in Australia the recent spike. But yeah, wishing you and all your families good health and safety. Until next time, see ya, bye.